Right now, as you watch this, there is a voice in your head. It is reading these words before I even finish saying them. It is commenting on what I'm saying. Maybe it already said, "Okay, where is this going?" Here's what is strange about that. You did not start it. It was already running when you woke up this morning. It was there last night when you were trying to sleep. It has been there every single day of your life, narrating, judging, questioning, replaying, and you have never once been able to turn it off. So let me ask you something nobody ever really asks. Whose voice is that? Because here's what is strange. It sounds like you. It uses your words. It knows your memories. It even argues in your favor sometimes. But you did not choose it. You did not build it. And you definitely cannot control it. So what exactly is it? That's what we're going to find out today.
Scientists call it the inner monologue. Psychologists call it inner speech. Philosophers have been arguing about it for literally thousands of years. But most people, most normal people, just call it thinking. And that is actually the problem. We have gotten so used to this voice that we stopped finding it strange. It is just there. Like background noise you stop noticing after a while. But the moment you actually pay attention to it, really pay attention, something uncomfortable happens. You realize you have no idea what it is. Think about it this way. When you talk out loud, you know where that comes from. Your brain forms a thought. It sends signals to your mouth. Your mouth moves. Words come out. Simple enough. But the inner voice does not use your mouth. It does not make any sound. There's no physical process you can point to. And yet, it feels more real than anything you say out loud. Why does a voice with no sound feel more like you than the actual sound of your real voice? That question alone took scientists decades to even start answering. In the 1930s, a psychologist named Lev Vygotsky had a theory. He watched children as they played, and he noticed something strange. Young children, around 3 or 4 years old, talk to themselves, constantly, out loud, not to anyone around them, just to themselves. Now I put the block here. Now I pick up the red one. Now this goes on top. Most adults at the time thought this was just kids being kids, random noise, not important. Vygotsky thought differently. He believed these children were not just talking randomly, they were using language as a tool to guide their own behavior, to solve problems, to think. And then, around age 7, something happens. The talking stops, or at least it stops being out loud. Vygotsky's theory was that the voice does not disappear. It goes underground. It moves from your mouth inward, into your head. The inner voice, he believed, is just childhood self-talk that learned to be quiet. Think about that for a second. The voice in your head might have started as you, as a literal child, talking yourself through life out loud. And at some point, you just internalized it. It became part of you so completely that you forgot it was ever separate.
But Vygotsky only answered when the voice develops. He did not answer why humans have it at all. Because here's the thing, most animals do not. A dog does not lie awake at night replaying an awkward interaction from 3 years ago. A crow does not narrate its own breakfast. An elephant does not have an internal debate about whether it made the right decision. Only humans do this. So somewhere in our evolution, this ability appeared, and it spread through our entire species, which means, in evolutionary terms, it was useful, incredibly useful. Here's what scientists believe happened. Around 70,000 years ago, something changed in the human brain. Archaeologists call it the cognitive revolution. Suddenly, humans started doing things no other animal had done before. They made art. They created tools. They built complex societies. They planned for the future. And all of these things, all of them, require one ability, the ability to think about something that is not right in front of you. A lion hunts what it can see. A bird builds a nest based on instinct. But ancient humans could sit in a cave and plan a hunt for 3 days from now, in a location they were not standing in, against an animal they could not see. How do you think about something that does not exist yet? You talk to yourself about it. The inner voice is essentially a simulation machine. It lets your brain run through scenarios before they happen, practice conversations, anticipate problems, replay mistakes so you do not make them again. Every time that voice in your head says, "Okay, but what if I say this instead?" it is doing exactly what it was built to do 70,000 years ago, keeping you alive. The problem is, your ancestors used this tool to plan hunts and survive winters. You are using it to replay an embarrassing thing you said in 2019.
This is where it gets personal. Not everyone experiences the inner voice the same way. Some people have it constantly, a running commentary on everything, every decision, every interaction, every moment of the day, narrated. Some people have it only sometimes, quiet for hours, then suddenly loud at 3 a.m. And then, here's the part that surprises most people, some people do not have it at all. A psychologist named Russell Hurlburt spent decades doing something unusual. He gave people beepers, and at random moments throughout the day, the beeper would go off, and the person had to stop and describe exactly what was happening in their mind at that moment. Not what they were thinking about in general. What was literally happening right now, in this exact second. What he found shocked him. About 30% of people, when the beeper went off, reported no inner voice, no words, no narration, just images, feelings, sensations, but no language. And when he told these people that some people have a constant verbal narrator in their head, they were shocked. They had no idea that was even possible. Think about what that means. Two people can walk through the same day, have the same experiences, and one of them is living inside a constant conversation with themselves, and the other is living in almost complete mental silence. Same species, completely different inner worlds, and neither of them knew the other existed.
Here is where it gets really strange. Remember, we established that the inner voice sounds like you. But here is a question that will genuinely bother you if you think about it too long. When the inner voice talks, who is listening? Because there has to be a listener, right? There is a voice speaking, and there is something receiving it, processing it, reacting to it. So which one is actually you? Are you the voice, or are you the one listening to the voice? Most people, when they really think about this, realize something uncomfortable. They have always assumed they are the voice, but they have been listening to it their whole life like it's coming from somewhere else. Neuroscientists have a term for this. They call it the narrator self, the idea that your brain creates a constant story about who you are, and the inner voice is what tells that story. But here's the problem with stories. Stories can be wrong. The voice in your head has told you things about yourself that were not true. It has called you stupid after a mistake. It has told you nobody likes you when you're alone. It has replayed failures and ignored successes. And you believed it because it sounded like you, because it is you, or at least it's the version of you that your brain constructed based on your experiences, your fears, your worst moments. The inner voice is not just a thinking tool. It's also the author of your self-image. And most people have never once questioned whether that author is telling the truth. Now here is where science gets genuinely stuck. Everything we have talked about, Vygotsky's theory, the cognitive revolution, Hurlburt's research, all of it describes what the inner voice does. None of it explains how. How does a physical brain, neurons, chemicals, electrical signals,
produce something that feels like a voice? How does matter become thought? How does biology become the experience of sitting quietly and hearing yourself think? Scientists call this the hard problem of consciousness, and it is, genuinely, unsolved. We can map every neuron in the brain. We can watch which areas light up when you think. We can measure electrical signals down to microseconds. But we cannot explain why any of that produces the feeling of being inside a mind, why it feels like something to be you. The inner voice is not just a quirky brain feature. It might be the closest thing we have to the experience of being conscious at all, and we still do not know what it actually is.
So, where does that leave us? You have a voice in your head. It has been there your whole life. It developed when you were a child, learning to guide yourself through the world. It evolved because your ancestors needed to simulate the future to survive. It sounds like you. It thinks like you. It knows everything you know. But it also lies to you sometimes. It replays things that do not matter. It catastrophizes things that have not happened. It tells a story about who you are, and sometimes that story is wrong. Here is what I want you to try. Tonight, when the voice starts, when it replays something embarrassing, or worries about something that has not happened, or tells you something about yourself, do not fight it. Just notice it. Notice that there is a voice. And notice that there is you watching the voice. And ask yourself which one is actually running the show. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The moment you can watch the voice, instead of just being it, something changes. You realize the voice is not you. It's just the loudest thing in the room. And quiet ones, we know better than anyone, the loudest thing in the room is rarely the most important.